Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kind of hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarsinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarsinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Brayton. With Geostorm crashing into theaters this past weekend, we take a look at our top 5 disaster movies.
You know what crashed was Geostorm's box office prospects.
Yeah,
it's not doing well.
No, it did not.
When did it release?
Perform well. This past weekend.
Did you just say that?
It's kind of what we do. We structure our episodes around the new release.
I would totally do a top 5 French movies from the 1930s just for the hell of it podcast.
Okay, we can do that.
Let's keep that in our back pocket.
The question later on will be interesting if Geostorm would have qualified in our list, which I'm excited to talk about when we get to our top 5. But first, Care, you had some grievances with me for our daughter's charitable event that happened. I thought we could talk a little bit about that.
Have you already told him about this? Or not yet?
Told who?
Tim.
No.
The guy sitting next to me?
We haven't
Oh,
chatted.
okay. You haven't talked about it?
Nope.
So let me tell you about this, Tim. So today, we go to this thing at Abby's school, and Rob, in advance, you have to like commit the amount of money that you're going to spend on this, and the kids are required to go and run laps. Well, in the disclosures for when they send this out, they just say like, oh, how much you can either do a flat donation or you can do like a per lap donation.
And they do give an estimate.
So are you betting that your child is out of shape and flabby and will like not make it around the lap?
I mean, that's what I was betting on. So, I mean, our kids are not like superstars when
they're
it comes
not
to...
gifted athletically. They've inherited Carrie.
They're kind of like Phoebe Buffay. Like if you remember the Friends episode where she goes running in the park, that's what our oldest looks like. No.
Sure.
No. Her knees are kind of like, never mind. She's kind of like knock-kneed a little bit and whatever.
It's harsh.
No,
It's
I mean,
harsh.
like, it's fine to be knock-kneed, right? Like you are too, kind of a
I
little
don't think
bit.
anyone in history has ever said, "Oh, you have the cutest knock knees."
Abby's
hers
gonna
are-
go
they're-
back and listen to
listen
episode
to the archival podcast.
season 2, episode 39. She'll get to this
I'm
one. and be
deleting this
devastated.
one after this.
I do hope that you wait many, many years until you allow your children to hear the things we say on the show.
This
Possibly
is-
your own death.
But
This
it was
is
a nice
true.
charitable event. Like they're trying to not have charity events throughout the year. This was supposed to be the one where it raises enough money.
It was a
for the whole year.
scam. It was a scam. So we get in there, we walk up. It's like a circle. We're thinking it's like around the school. So we donated like, I don't know, $10 or something per lap. I don't know.
Originally, I had told Carrie because she wasn't on board with this.
I said
per
do the
lap.
flat rate.
So
Do the flat rate, man.
We were generous with our flat rate, and then on top of it, I did a.
Rob did the sneak attack.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I thought, you know what? We should
is like
motivate her.
You're a
worse than-
taxpayer. You're already
Right.
paying for this school.
This is like throwing away the cheese all over again. So, yeah, so Rob sneaks that in on me. So I'm already starting to feel a little bit anxious about the situation. Then we show up there. It's like a 15-meter circle. So they're like, oh, yeah, how many times can you? It's like 3 steps around the block. Oh, there's $5 out the door. Oh, there's another $5 out the door.
Let's just say they were very creative with counting laps. So there was a pre-lap. It was like a warm-up lap. It's like, well, let's count that one. And
Yeah.
then it was,
Turn around in the middle and turn around in reverse. But don't forget to get a check mark
right.
for that. $5 out the door. By the end, I'm like, hey, man, zip it. And then, like, Abby was about to go get a check mark. I'm like, just scoot along. Just there's a line. Just go. Just do another lap. You don't need a little check mark on the back of your shirt.
What made it extremely uncomfortable was when Carrie started like tripping our child to try to injure her.
I was like, Abby, aren't you so tired right now? You look so exhausted.
So next year, what you're going to do is just like get a tub of like ready-made cookie batter and just like feed it to her
the whole
before,
way.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make her like, you're not supposed to eat before running. I'm going to give her some chili.
Abby, come back.
no
There goes
good.
your college fund.
Yeah, I don't even just pay the bill. I don't even want to know what this was.
Substantial. It was substantial.
I don't want to know what happened.
Will there be a Jarosinski wing at the local elementary school? Is it that substantial?
Yeah, right. Probably.
All for a good cause. We're happy to have done it. But
yeah, sure. I'm not.
Well, let's get into worth mentioning. I think it's been a busy week for all of us. I'm not sure we had a lot. I'm curious to see how many movies we saw. So what is the worth mentioning segment of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which are the ones we want to talk about most? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them either way. I had to care. What did I know what you ended up watching? Did you watch anything beyond the one movie that I saw?
I saw Finding Dory again.
Okay. That's what you're going to talk about?
No.
Okay.
But I saw 2 movies.
Okay.
So I saw Finding Dory. Very good again. But I also saw a movie called Sleeping with Other People.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of this. I haven't seen it.
Carrie and I were doing research.
We were doing,
Obviously.
yeah, right. Research on bad movies. See what I did there? I switched it because that was kind of
your
weird.
husband was talking about having sex with the neighbor lady.
Yeah.
And you made it about something
I know.
else.
He made it weird. So I'll make it normal again. It's 2015. It's directed and written by Leslie Headland.
Okay.
Is that a person you know
I
of?
assume it's a person.
I assume it is too.
Assume it was not made by a robot in a lab.
You never know. You never know. It's I don't know how to talk about this. It's a comedy romance, or it's supposed to be.
That sounds like there should be a name for that genre.
Comance.
A como.
A como or a
Yes.
comance, maybe?
Yes, I like it.
All right. Or a romedy.
Ooh, a romedy. I like
What's
it.
interesting is this was 2015. It was getting a lot of
Isn't
love.
it rom-com?
Oh, rom-com.
This is where I was heading.
Oh, okay. Now,
Well, because you said comedy romance, and I'm like, I have never ever heard the most common genre of like several decades referred to as a comedy romance before.
This had some steam back in the day in Sundance. It had some sold, like, I don't know. I had read that it was doing very, or Tribeca, something like that, where it did very well there. And this one stars Jason Sudeikis, Alison Brie, and Adam Scott.
are you stepping over me because this is your movie
it's
too?
my movie too. It's the only movie I saw.
Oh,
this
I
week.
didn't
Yeah.
know that. I was
Sorry,
like, hey, man.
didn't mean to step.
Yeah, back it off. So it stars Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie.
Oh,
Just so you know, do you know who they are? You know who Jason Sudeikis is?
I know who all of these people are.
Okay, and Alison Brie too.
Alison Brie's delightful.
Do you want to talk about the movie,
no,
Rob?
I'm good.
So a good-natured womanizer and a serial cheater form a platonic friendship or relationship.
What is the ontological difference between a serial cheater and a good-natured womanizer?
That's a good question.
They
Clearly
sound like
the serial
one
cheater
is the way the man describes himself, and the one is the way he is described by others. Kind of is what I just heard.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's not a really good description.
All right.
I don't know. Neither character is particularly likable, so you're not drawn to either of them. And they, of course, it's the normal story that you know, where of course, they're in separate relationships and then their friendship forms, and it's the story that comes from that. They're after their attraction sets
Netflix has
in.
been pushing this really
Yeah.
hard, at least for us. So if it comes across, we were hoping for something light to pass the time. It did the job, but
I don't think it did.
it was.
In theory, when the movie was over, it was 2 hours later than when the movie started. Yes.
So it did
So it
do
passed
that.
the time.
There
It
were some.
did
I remember you
actively pass the
laughed.
time.
I think that the challenge with this movie for me was that it was a bit graphic from a sexual perspective. Like
Yeah.
it would be this light. It was like as if when Harry Met Sally, all of a sudden they were doing reverse cowgirl.
Is
you know?
the title of the movie "Cuddling with Other People with All Your Clothes On"? Robert.
But we thought they could have been just sleeping. It could have been spooning. It could have been just a good nap.
But
you don't
the
really
love
know.
scenes were like it was
intense.
aggressive. It was aggressive love scenes, like uncomfortable.
So it
little bit.
also stars the guy from Parks and Rec, the kind of
Right.
greasy guy with the black hair. And so his character is creepy in this one too. It felt like, when we talked about how much I love What If and how much you hate that.
Yes, I remember that.
So it's not as good as What If.
Ooh.
And it's more
Maybe I'd
sexual
like this
than What
movie.
If. So it
Sounds
failed.
This sounds like a movie I'd like.
I
Sounds
know,
right up
I
your
know.
alley.
It's like a dirty.
It's like
version of
erotic What If.
I like it. All right.
So it didn't hit the mark for me. I don't know what you thought about it, Rob, but it's not something I would have re-spent the time if I had it.
I mean, there's some funny bits, but all in all, like I didn't come away feeling like I really learned a lot from the movie or walked away with things that'll be super memorable. So it's a pass for me. Yeah.
You knew all that stuff before going in.
Oh, I know all those positions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Positions.
Delete
Aren't
that.
positions like a type of really good cheese-based dessert that you can get at New York delis?
Sure. Yeah, it's a Greek
I feel
delicacy.
more comfortable knowing that than whatever else he was referring to.
How about you,
But
Tim?
let's move along,
Did you
yeah.
have more time to take in some movies?
Well, I need to ask you a question. So after our last podcast, I can't remember because my week has sort of fried my head a little bit. Did you drop me off at the movie theater after our last recording? Then I have seen one movie since our last recording.
What did you see?
I saw Happy Death Day.
Oh, nice. I want to know about this.
I loved it a little bit. I mean,
my
it's
gosh.
clearly like junk food. No two ways about it. So Happy Death Day is Groundhog Day, but it's a slasher movie. And I don't even need to describe the plot beyond that. a character named Tree Gelbman, played by, I don't have this in front of me, so I need to look it up real quick. So Tree Gelbman is a sorority girl at the fictional Bayview University who on her birthday is murdered brutally by a serial killer wearing a mask that is in the shape of a baby's face, and it's very creepy and weird. And then she wakes up on her birthday again, and this keeps happening, and she keeps trying to find out. So Tree Gelbman is played by Jessica Roth, who is like actually really good, and I'll get to her in a second. So she keeps dying. She has to figure out who's killing her. I will not tell you what happens.
Yeah, it's still in theaters.
Still in theaters. It's just so much fun, like weirdly fun. It's a PG-13 slasher movie, which is usually like salt in a wound to me. I hate PG-13 horror films, really. But something about the fact that by virtue of having a Groundhog Day style scenario where she keeps dying and coming back, and even the characters kind of acknowledge this, like there aren't stakes really. Like she's not going to die. We know she's not going to die, and they try to like do a thing.
You know she dies. She dies over and over, right?
Well, she dies over and over, but she always comes back.
Oh, okay.
So like the stakes are not who will the killer kill, because we know he won't. Mm-hmm. So it becomes this like sort of exercise in non-serious slasher movie writing, which is kind of really weird and interesting. So Jessica Roth plays Tree Gelbman, the victim. Israel Broussard plays Carter Davis, the freshman kid she doesn't sleep with, but she thinks she does, and that's what kind of triggers the whole thing, who is like her girl Friday, helping her figure out what's going on with things. They're just terrific. They're fun actors. Jessica Roth is like really good at making a character who starts the film as this shallow, sniping mean girl, and then over the course of her time dying and coming back and trying to figure out what's going on, has a very Groundhog Day-esque, learns to be a better person by sort of recognizing her own behavior arc, and she sells it without ever making us feel like Tree has become a different person. Like she's the good version of the sniping mean girl she started out as. So that's delightful. The whole movie is just like, it's like spooky-ish because it's a slasher movie, so it has to have like dark hallways and people jumping out with masks on and shit. But it's so eager to have fun playing with its own structure. What it reminds me of, specifically, the movie Edge of Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
The scene where Tom Cruise keeps getting run over by a truck, and that's played as a gag. So good, yeah. That's basically like, this is a feature-length movie version of that scene.
Yeah.
Totally dug it. I saw it on the big, huge ultra screen at our local theater, which is like the branded version of IMAX that this chain has. Probably not worth it for that. I saw it because that was the showtime I could get into. Definitely worth seeing in a theater. Definitely worth seeing with an appreciative crowd. So yeah, I'd say run.
I remember when I dropped you off, I said, I hope it doesn't take itself too seriously.
It totally does not.
That's perfect. That's the. And did it unseat Blade Runner 2049 in the box office?
It was the number one film last weekend at the box office.
Wow, that's really sad.
I liked it better than Blade Runner 2049.
Oh,
that is
it's
my
not
hot
that
take.
good.
I think it is a more satisfying
what kind of critic
work of cinema.
are you?
I do enjoy a good Groundhog's Day type film.
I would say of the Groundhog Day scenario, which is used all the damn time now, I would put it number 3, honestly, behind Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow as the one that just gave me the most pleasure.
So in a horror scenario, though, that worked in a movie like Edge of Tomorrow, and that worked in a movie like Groundhog Day. But how does it work in horror in the sense of like if you're trying to continuously be jumpy, but yet you already know who's going to jump out because it already happened?
That's the thing. Like the movie gets that that's not going to work, and so it basically doesn't try. Like it ceases to really try to function as a horror movie.
But did you feel scared after 10 minutes since it was the same thing happening over and over?
But no, it's not the same. So she tries to improve her scenario each time, and she's like, oh, shit.
Like she dies in different ways.
Oh, she does?
Like the first time she gets stabbed in an alley. The second time she's like, well, I won't go into the alley. I'll go to the party.
I see.
Does she take the time to learn to play piano?
No. It takes place on a well-defined time frame that is much shorter than Groundhog Day.
Okay.
Because Groundhog Day, like someone did the math, and apparently it takes like 10,000 years before he finally gets out of the cycle. I won't say how long Happy Death Day takes, but it's
if she even
shorter.
gets out of the cycle.
Here's my question too. I can't even remember how he got out of the cycle in Groundhog's Day.
Fucking Andy McDowell.
That would do it.
Is this a bit? I feel like you're messing with me.
No,
making love to Andy McDowell.
Andy McDowell. How did?
That's
Andy
how he got
McDowell
out. Falling in love.
So they're coworkers, and she hates him because he's an asshole because he is.
Oh, Andy McDowell's a woman.
Yes.
Is that played by the girl with the curly brown hair?
Yes.
That is Andie MacDowell.
Oh, I didn't know that was her name.
That's her name.
I thought that
remember
was
her
like
character name.
Elaine from
Would you
Seinfeld
ever
or
get so
something.
No, the movie would have been substantial. I love the movie, but Andie MacDowell is not a strength, whereas Julia Louis-Dreyfus would have made it like all time.
Oh, yeah. That
If
would've
the
been good.
Groundhog's Day scenario it started playing out for one of us or for yourself, would you ever get so flagrant with your life? Because I would always be afraid, like, that's the one time it's not going to work. Like, I wouldn't get so flagrant. You know what I mean? I wouldn't like get to myself to a position where I'm just like driving with a dog and off a cliff or whatever it was.
Like in Edge of Tomorrow.
I would go through every single movie that I could get my hands on and just like watch a different like 8 movies every day.
That's what you would do.
Until eventually I'd seen them all. And at that point I would start like doing things like, eating batteries or I don't know.
I feel like you've thought this through before. This isn't just off the cuff.
I know what I would do if I didn't have to sleep. And I feel like this is an even better version of not having to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. We're going to have a review with that. Is that right, Tim? Is that coming?
Review's up.
Oh, review is up. Alternateending.com. You can find it there. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. You may want to make us watch a movie, have Tim write a review, pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page. Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing is as easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on the Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here are the things that were purchased. Had some camera air blaster small black. I don't know what that is. Rocket air blaster?
It's
is
to
it
get
like
the dust
It's like
off.
a little can of air to clean out your camera.
Yeah, it
lens.
gets the dust
Oh,
off.
nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
We definitely have a film student who listens to our show.
Yeah. Is
Like
that coming
100%.
through? Is that coming through?
That makes
is
me feel
100%
good because
something
this
you
is
buy
a film
on it
podcast,
is a
so
film
that's
podcast.
good. Yeah.
Perhaps the film student also bought a signature sleep contour 8-inch independently encased coil mattress with low VOC.
I mean, I couldn't speak to that. I think film students can't afford mattresses. They just sleep on wooden
Especially low
planks.
VOC. You have to have high VOC if you're a film student.
Yeah. Let that sink in. All the fumes. Also had a Pellon fusible 931 TD, white 20-inch by 10 yards. I have no idea
You
what
gotta
that
Google.
is.
It's a window, a Pella window.
Pellon.
Oh,
Pilon.
Pellon.
Pilon.
I don't know. And then
If this is your product, please chime in comments and tell us
No,
what is God's
yeah,
name
we
you
don't
bought.
know. I guess I could have Googled it.
You should have.
And then we just had just a ton of DVDs purchased.
Oh, this is
I'm
my
so
favorite.
excited
Yeah.
because we had Castle in the Sky, the Blu-ray DVD combo
good.
purchase. Ponyo.
What
also
If?
a
Say What If.
that's an anime.
These are both Studio Ghibli films.
Porco Rosso.
This is all. We had someone who went to town on Studio Ghibli.
Was there a discount on Amazon for
There
Blu-rays
must have
recently?
been,
Yeah,
because these are
something's
not
going
cheap
on.
DVDs. So if anyone bought like 12 Ghibli films, they had to have been on sale because no sane person.
I haven't seen this, but Timmy had a review of this one, King Arthur: Legend of the Sword.
Not a Ghibli film.
Not a Ghibli.
Should have been. Would have been better.
Secret World of Ariete.
That gets us back to Ghibli.
The Cat Returns.
Ghibli.
I've never heard of any
Kiki's
of
Delivery
these.
Service.
Ghibli.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this one gets me. The Room on Blu-ray.
The Room is on Blu-ray.
Apparently.
Damn, I know what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah. So, Carrie, we will teach you all about The Room soon.
I've seen The Room.
No, you've seen Room, but not The Room.
Oh, I was like, The Room on Blu-ray. That's kind of weird.
Well, Room is on Blu-ray.
But you
So
don't
is
need it
the
on
Room
Blu-ray.
apparently, and it will soon be in my house on Blu-ray.
What,
Why
is The
do you
Room
need to see
scary?
it on Blu-ray on HD.
Because I want to. What is that? That's not even a question. I don't
That's
understand
true.
why you just said what you said.
You need to. It's the yeah. We'll get to it.
We'll talk to
we
it
need
later.
to do a spoiler alert episode on
I
that.
think I have a weekend in mind where it might be worth doing a spoiler alert for The Room.
Also had My Neighbors the Yamadas,
Ghibli.
New Sky of the Valley, and
Nausicaa, Ghibli.
Nausicaa, Whisper of the Heart,
Ghibli.
Princess Mononoke,
These are all you, aren't
My
they?
Neighbor
I
Totoro,
own these all already.
Oh,
That's also
okay.
Ghibli.
Howl's Movie Castle,
Someone totally bought the literal entire Ghibli catalog.
and Spirited Away.
Yep. So they didn't buy. Let me see if I
I've
can.
seen Spirited Away.
They didn't buy Pompoko. They didn't buy Only Yesterday, which is a shame because those are really good films.
There's still
and
time.
Better than some of the ones you bought. Honestly, I don't want to judge your tastes, but I mean,
But you just did.
really,
just
I'm just saying some of these are not as good as Only Yesterday. Is what I'm saying. I didn't buy Princess Kaguya, so on the other hand, you didn't buy Tales from Earthsea, so you do have some taste.
There's so much
I
judgment
really,
happening right now.
If this was all from one person, really appreciate it. Otherwise, either way, we appreciate it. So thank you so much. Keep those purchases coming. On Amazon Instant Video, also had Letters from Iwo Jima. I've seen the first installment of
Flags
Clint
of Our
Eastwood-
Fathers.
Flags of Our Fathers. I've
Letters
not-
is substantially better.
Oh,
Like a lot.
I kind of gave up after Flags a little bit, so I need to go back and see Letters of Iwo Jima. Thanks, guys, for all your purchases. When we get back, our top 5 disaster movies. Welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 disaster movies. Care, are you ready to present your case? What makes a disaster movie in your opinion? All right, hit us.
Unfortunately, I'm not going to go with disaster movies this episode. I'm going to take it up a notch. I'm going to go with epic disasters. Yeah, I'm going
What's
there.
Epic? I don't know what that means.
I'll tell you what epic means. Epic is worse than disaster. Epic disaster means it affects lots of people.
What's lots?
More than 10.
More than 10? Okay.
If your sink blows up, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
If the Atlantic Ocean blows up, it's an epic disaster.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's part of it. It's even actually more than 10. It's like
at least 14.
At least 14.
Does it have to threaten that many people, or does it actually have to kill
It's
that
got
many?
to threaten and kill
More than 10 people.
Lots
30
more
people.
than 400 people.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah.
What else?
And then it can't resolve well.
Can't resolve well.
So it can't be like, there was this really bad thing, but like everybody makes it.
I actually like where you're going.
Not everybody can't make it.
It also means somebody
It's not an impending threat that's resolved. It's a threat that actually there's a...
Yeah, because I mean, in the initial outbreak of the disaster, at least several people have to die.
All right, so I'm going to caveat again. It can't be somebody that I wanted to make it. Somebody that I wanted to make it can't make it.
Oh, totally. 100%.
Oh, I like this.
Okay.
This is good, Karen.
That is not one of my definitions for
like
one
that.
of my films, but I totally see where you're at.
Yeah, so
I
that
like
makes
that.
it an epic disaster.
Okay, Tim, where's your head at?
So for me, a disaster movie is a very, very specific, almost kabuki-like in its formal precision storytelling device.
What's a kabuki?
Kabuki is a Japanese theatrical form which is all about like correct, bringing to life the forms of the thing in the correct way without variation.
Okay.
Basically, so it's very rule-based.
All right.
So the rules of a disaster film. It must begin with a sizable cast of individuals all undergoing some kind of melodramatic domestic drama.
Yep.
So normal quotidian lives involving affairs, involving child-parent angst, involving perhaps professional things. There just has to be some level of like, this is daily life. We're going to watch normal people go through whatever they're going through. Somewhere around the midway point of the film, perhaps earlier, there must be some kind of event involving, as Carrie has pointed out, like a threat to many hundreds of people that kills some of them ideally. One of my films has a very small body count. The threat must cause all of the domestic dramas to be put on hold, but they are resolved by either the participants dying, or especially if they're a divorced couple, realizing that they can only rely on each other and therefore reuniting
This is very
over the course.
specific.
You have no
This has gotta
idea
be
how
very
many
specific.
movies
Oh, no.
have a divorced couple coming back over the course of a disaster.
Oh, I know a couple.
It's most of them.
It's most of them.
So yes, so it has to be domestic dramas interrupted by some
Okay.
sort of sizable violent event that threatens the lives of hundreds or thousands of people.
Agreed.
I'm mad that I didn't use your criteria, Tim, of the where it focuses on multiple people's lives and it kind of does vignettes or things like that, because that applies to all of mine except for one. And I feel like
And I will
that's a
say
good one.
some of mine are less vignette based than others.
Okay.
I think there's variations. There's the platonic ideal as the 70s form of the disaster movie, which had like literally a dozen main characters in every case.
I'm on board with both of yours then, kind of a blend of the two. I'll go a little bit in a different direction with part of it, and just let me know if this matches you. I'm going for natural, earthbound disasters.
I did not require mine to be natural.
Didn't have to be, no.
Didn't have to be natural.
Could be
So
anything.
Wikipedia defines
Oh,
a
geez.
disaster as a natural disaster. I went with natural disasters. Is a major adverse event resulting from the natural processes of the earth. Examples include floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, tsunamis, and other geological
I must
processes.
ask the question, what about non-natural processes of the Earth, such as, what if, e.g., throwing this out there from nowhere, what if the core of the Earth stopped spinning?
Or what about Wall-E?
I feel like that could count.
What about garbage? Like, what about a Wall-E? Human created.
I'm not. So here was a criteria which it'll probably give away something, but I feel like I need to state it. It can't be an impending.
No dinosaurs.
It can't
for
be
you?
no aliens.
No, of course
no
not.
aliens.
Although continue.
It can't be like you said. I think you said, Kara. Like, it can't be like something's about to happen and then we fix it before it happens. It can't be impending.
No, suffering must happen.
Yeah, suffering has to happen, and aliens are fine.
I will say structurally, to me, Independence Day and the Godzilla from Emmerich and Devlin, both are so structurally close to disaster movies that I feel like I have to wave them in.
No, I'm good leaving them
but you can't choose Independence Day because you don't lose anybody that you care about in that one.
What do you mean? You lose the president's wife.
That was sad.
That was incredibly sad. She's like the best character. She's played by Mary McDonald.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Well, let's get started. I'm excited. We're close enough. This is probably one of the closest on the metrics that we've had, minus horse movies, maybe.
I love this episode too. I've been on the rocks with you guys for a while because we've had some rough episodes for me, but I love a good disaster movie. So I'm actually excited to hear what you guys.
Based on your criteria, did you have to leave some out where you're like, I really like that movie?
Tons of them.
I felt that way.
Tons of them. Actually, I will even caveat to say that movies that I like more, like some of my favorite movies, fall into this category, but I couldn't include them because of my criteria. So.
All right, let's see.
I was willing to massage my criteria to get the movies on that I thought would make an interesting list.
I know you would. But I'm a stickler for the rules. So here I go.
All right.
And I don't know if we've talked about this before, Tim, but Rob and I have. It's the 2011 Perfect Sense. Have you ever seen this movie?
I have never heard of this movie.
So Rob and I talked about it. Rob hates it, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. So it's directed by Robert McKenzie, who I don't know.
High water.
Thanks. You always steal my thunder. You've been stealing my thunder all day.
I thought you'd be impressed.
I was going to have Tim be impressed with me.
I am impressed with you, and you, Rob, are a spoil sport and a bully.
Thanks. I know. Just back off me. So it's written by Kim F.A., Kim Foops Atkinson, a writer.
I don't know what you just said, but okay.
Kim Poops.
I've been trying to really get better about my pronunciation. So let me tell you about this movie. A chef and a scientist fall in love, and there's this onset of this epidemic that's rampant in the entire world. Yep. And it's sweeping everybody, and millions of people are impacted. And I'm not selling it particularly well, but people are first impacted by losing like an initial sense. Sure. Like they lose their sense. What's the first one that goes, Rob? It's like their sense of smell. Like your least, like what do you think is your least useful sense?
Probably smell.
Smell.
But I feel like taste is a subset of smell, so I guess I wouldn't want to lose taste first.
Yeah. So I think they lose smell first, maybe.
Eva Green's in this, Tim?
Eva Green and Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Start with that.
Yeah.
That'll get Tim on board.
It's a drama romance. So it's these two meet and then they fall in love, and this mass epidemic breaks out and they start losing their senses. Well, and it's a view on the world of what happens to humanity when people lose their senses. And so they lose this one set of senses, and then over the course of time, they continue to go through the six senses. And there's six, right?
There's
five. There's a sixth, though, right?
Well, I mean, depending on how you define them, there's up to like 14. Some people do claim that your sense of balance is an individual sense.
Yeah.
So
they lose that one too.
But there were 5.
So in the purpose of this movie, there's 5. And the movie breaks down like what actually happens, and it's so cool in a look of humanity of how each one impacts it. So then when they lose their sense of taste, everyone's adapting. So you lose your sense of taste, and so the world changes and cooking changes. So it becomes more about touch, like the touch of food and the sensory perception of food. Sure. And so society all adapts to these losing senses. And
may I ask a question at this point?
Yeah.
How in God's green earth is this a disaster movie?
The whole
Who
world
dies?
I'm not going to tell you what happened.
Didn't you say massive death or something like that? Was
like
more than 40?
No, it's so
overriding.
So all right, everyone just turn your volume down because I'm just going to spoil this movie for like 1 second. So I'm going to tell you why everybody dies. So just turn it down for a second.
After they lose their sense of sight, they all walk off cliffs?
Yeah. So they lose all of their senses. Obviously, humanity dies. The entire world dies. If you don't have any senses, people are just running around in the traffic. They're crashing cars. They're burning themselves.
In theory, they're not driving cars if they're...
Some of them were in cars. Those all crashed.
It's like the Rapture.
It literally happens like immediately. Like, so the last scene is fantastic. And the two of them, they've lost all senses except for their sense of sight.
Right.
And the two run to embrace because they've kind of broken up because this whole thing's really difficult and the whole world is breaking down. Mm-hmm. The last scene is literally the two of them running together to embrace, and they like catch each other, and then it goes black.
Oh, see,
and so
I like that as an ending.
Totally. And then you're left with this. Rob fell asleep. I'm left with this. My heart's racing. I'm thinking, like, the whole world just went black. Like, everyone dies.
No, it just went blind.
You can, with touch, sense, smell.
Don't need it. Love persists. That's the message.
So basically, if they let go of each other, they're like, whoops. Well, we should have held hands, or it's like, hey, Eva, is that you? Ava, is that you? Like, I don't know. Could be anybody.
I'd know by. Oh, wait, there's no touch.
There's no touch.
That's a good point.
This whole world
How do you
is a
even
disaster.
know if you're still holding each other's hands?
You don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
This movie was just tragically,
you've just increased it from my 1.5 star rating to 2 stars now.
I loved this
Although
movie.
I will say, like, I still struggle to see the disaster element of it. But
I will say one of the rules I did set for myself I didn't mention, I decided that epidemic films didn't count.
Okay. Yeah. I left those out as well. If you are looking for a good sense movie that talks about the de-evolution of society, I like Blindness.
I hated Blindness a lot.
This is too much for you, huh?
Too shitty.
Yeah, just too shitty.
It was too. The movie was made at too poor of a level for me to sign off on it.
All right. Well,
I don't think I hated it. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars, but I was disappointed.
Well, what's your number 5? That's not about losing your senses.
So I want to add one more wrinkle. I kind of tried to come up with 5 different kinds of disaster movies.
I get that.
So, a top 5 is just such a weird thing to do for this genre. So I decided to do a representative sampling. So my number 5 movie on my list is my shitty disaster film. So I think we can all agree that it's a genre that has produced many bad films, some of which are delightful, such as Irwin Allen's The Swarm is one of the all-time great bad movies. This is not on my list, sadly. But I decided that especially the modern incarnation of the genre since like the mid-90s or so has largely been made out of really just garbage films that are terrible in every way, some of which are delightfully so. And for me, the most delightfully shitty of all disaster movies of the 1990s, 1997's Dante's Peak.
Oh, volcano movie, right?
It's a volcano movie.
I haven't seen it.
Crap. I think I was supposed to put this on as my number 5. Damn it.
Well, it's not too late to do that.
You could swap it out.
You can swap it out.
Yeah, I'll swap. I like it better than my number 5. I don't know what the heck.
But now you have to tell us what your number 6 is.
Yeah.
When you get that far.
Yeah, I will.
So 1997 film written by Leslie Boehm, directed by Roger Donaldson, stars Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton, and it is about a town. I believe the town is named Dante's Peak. The volcano is certainly named Dante's Peak. The second most desirable place to live in America, which is right on the cusp of an ancient volcano that's about to blow up. And it is full of ridiculous contrived melodrama, and Pierce Brosnan is a terrible romantic lead, and Linda Hamilton is struggling her damnedest to do anything with the fact that Pierce Brosnan clearly doesn't want to be there, clearly would rather be making god-awful Bond films at that point.
Oh, you mean like their actual acting performance was terrible?
Yeah, like Brosnan is just checked out of this movie. It is the second of 1997's. Actually, no, I think it was the first of 1997's dueling volcano movies. The Tommy Lee Jones and I believe Anne Hesh vehicle Volcano came out a few months later. Very stupid, full of really idiotic scenes, of which I think signally the most idiotic is when the lovely old grandma, in order to make sure that the boat, which is in a lake full of acid, doesn't sink with her grandchildren, gets out of the boat, walks across, gets as far as the pier, does not climb out of the water, continues walking past the pier up to the shore and dies of acid. And it's great because it's so fucking stupid and I love it.
This is where your character really comes out here, Tim. So it's fun to talk about these things. So, question.
You have not seen this character? Pierce Brosnan lover that you are?
I am a Pierce Brosnan lover. Does Pierce die or his lady friend?
How can I possibly tell you that without spoiling?
So don't tell me that, but does it meet the criteria of somebody that you really wanted to live?
The grandma who I just told you who drowns in acid.
But obviously you didn't care much. You were laughing.
I don't care about any of these people. They're terrible human beings. But she's sympathetic. She's set up to be someone we like. If the movie's
you don't
not
want her to die.
So unfathomably bad.
Okay, so if it was me, I would be sad. It was just that it was you.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's because I have a calloused over lack of
Got
soul.
it. Okay. All right.
But so is this your official number 5?
Yeah, it is. I don't know what I don't know what happened. I think I had this and then somehow it got off. And then because I remember thinking too, between Volcano and Dante's Peak, you got to go.
Dante's Peak. No question. Volcano is a more proficient motion picture, which also has a very stupid scene of somebody walking through viscous killer liquid. In the case, it's lava.
I feel like viscous. You've used that word several times today already.
Not on recording. Not on air.
That was meant to be a little quiet thing I did for you guys to appreciate that I used the word viscous.
I see what you did there.
Rob described beer as viscous, which is so self-evidently wrong.
The beer we're drinking.
Viscous, you can't drink a viscous liquid.
It's more viscous
it would be like
than
drinking
my
honey.
usual beer drinking.
So yeah, it's clearly better than Volcano.
And you can drink honey.
It is. And clearly better than the number 5 that I ended up putting on the list, 2009's 2012, if that's not confusing.
I mean, 2012 is also an extremely
You can't
good
talk about it.
disaster
You can't talk about it because it was your number 6 now.
It was your number 6.
You can't talk about it.
I can't talk about it?
There's
No.
a review of 2012 on the site. You should go check it out.
Sure. I like it. Roland Emmerich, Disaster King. That's all.
But not as good as Dante's Peak.
I prefer watching Dante's Peak, although I've only seen 2012 once, and I wouldn't mind watching John Cusack. And
I have seen 2012 3 times and Dante's Peak twice.
And you...
Dante's Peak is
Dante's
on my
Peak.
list.
Okay.
And I said I had one shitty movie, so it's not like I've got 4 other shitty
I don't have
movies.
room for more. All right.
Do you want to know what's slightly better than Dante's Peak?
Does 2012 meet both of your criterias?
No.
Oh, unquestionably.
Okay,
I've never
Dante's
seen
Peak meets mine. I don't know if there's massive death, but there's
a sufficient amount of
substantial
moderate death.
So I'm on
There's
board
a
with that.
scene where a helicopter blows up because it ingests too much volcanic ash. And
I can only fit like 6 people on a helicopter
How does 2012 not meet your criteria?
because I don't know what it's about.
Well, that doesn't... What?
It would.
It would.
It would
Okay.
meet your criteria. Also
right.
see 2012.
Okay, I will. So my number 4,
Woody
which
Harrelson. Sorry.
let me just get to my number
Sorry.
4. You just keep cutting me off again the whole day. This is on Rob's list, I think, maybe. Rob really liked this movie, I think, when we saw it together. 2011, Contagion.
I like Tim. I also left
That is
Epidemic.
the reason I did not include
Why,
Epidemic
though?
films.
Why?
Because I wanted to do my 5 different kinds, and that would have overlapped with one of the other kinds. And it's like, okay, well, I just won't do outbreak movies then.
Oh, okay, but what does it overlap with?
Well, I can't tell you.
It's-
Not Dante's Peak.
Oh, okay.
So Tim, just really quick on you. So your movies aren't ranked by preference.
They're ranked.
They're ranked?
I mean, it's a ranked list, but also it's a porous ranked
Okay,
list.
that's cool. I like it.
Did you see Contagion, though?
Oh, I did.
Oh,
Wonderful
did you
movie.
like it? Yeah.
It's good.
It is so good. And so I like epidemic / apocalyptic type movies. So
/ disaster movies.
/ disaster. I love disaster
disaster.
movies. It's such a disaster. Not even just a disaster. This one's an epic disaster.
Well, it's a disaster where pretty clearly the outcome is 90% of humanity dies.
It's grim. Yeah, it's not looking good. It definitely exceeds the 14 that we laid out earlier. Directed by Steven Soderbergh.
the very same.
Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Thanks. And written by Scott Burns.
Yep.
So after a business trip to Hong Kong, Beth Imhoff, who's played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
Goop.
What's a goop?
Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's website, and it's sometimes used as her nickname
But why does she call herself Goop?
because she's a strange human being.
Okay. All right, we'll go with that. Never going there. So she gets a flu or some type of infection, like some type of illness.
Some type of contagion.
Good. It was that too. And I mean, I don't know if this is a spoiler. Turn it down for just one quick sec and then keep it down. Still down. Does she die right away?
She dies right away.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So she's not doing
Great
well.
scene, by the way, with Matt Damon in the hospital.
Yeah. So Matt Damon's in this. Kate Winslet's in this. Jude Law, your lookalikes in there. And
Yours being mine, Rob. just in case people are confused.
Rob's lookalike in there.
Yeah, no, mine is more like Brad Pitt, but he's not in this movie, sadly.
No. Otherwise, I would have brought that up. And she dies, and then her son dies. I mean, you can't let the kid die. Shortly after, her son dies too. And then the movie tracks on. This deadly infection just starts to just wipe everybody out. And it quickly spreads, becomes, I think it's, like you said, I think millions of people. Obviously, that's a disaster. And this thing kills off tons and tons of people. It's one of those movies where you're watching the map and it's like showing how it's spreading, and it's just like shutting down countries. And the story becomes about finding like what happened, like what the CDC comes in, like what's the root cause, what started, and how do we find a cure?
Yeah, I feel like I could do like outbreak movies, top 5 outbreak movies.
I like this movie more than at least 3 or maybe even 4 of the films on my list. So like I'm on board with it as a pick, just not as a disaster movie. But it's really
millions of people all dying.
Millions of people died in the Holocaust, but we don't call Schindler's List a disaster movie.
I think that is a disaster
movie. If Schindler's List is on your list, I might have to walk out of the room.
I do want to go.
Thought of it, maybe.
When people say Contagion, the thing that stands out to me still is that hospital scene with Matt Damon.
For me, honestly, and we can't talk about it, but it's the last scene.
Yeah,
which is such a like fuck you, wonderful mind screw to me.
Totally. And when you find out what it is, and it feels too real. Like it kind of feels like...
Yeah.
Oh, it is the most realistic of all outbreak movies.
Yes,
like,
it totally is. Apocalyptic drama, thriller. If you're into those things and you haven't seen this, I would totally check it out. So that was my number 4. So what is your number 4?
So my number 4 is my limit case, let's say.
What does that mean?
It means that it doesn't really fit with my criterion at all.
Okay.
It doesn't even fit with my one for each kind, because as far as I know, this is the only one of its kind, really. So this is the disaster movie parody. And this is a parody of a very specific run of disaster movies in the 70s, the airport films in which horrible things happened on planes. This is also about horrible things happening on a plane, for this is the movie Airplane. From 1980, directed by Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and the other Zucker, whose name evades me, Jerry Zucker. It's a parody of airplane disaster movies in which a wonderful cast, including Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and the incomparable Leslie Nielsen in the film that like made him the star of every parody, but also kind of the only one that's any good. Why is this
a disaster movie, though?
Because it's about a plane that's going to crash.
But it's a comedy, isn't it?
The plane disaster genre is a noted subgenre within the disaster genre.
Sure.
It is. It's a parody of the airports.
Flight's
not a disaster movie.
Well, I don't think Airplane is.
This is the one. Is this the guy?
Right.
This has the guy that's in Spaceballs in it too?
Mel Brooks?
No, the guy that walks around with Jim Candy all the time. John Candy. Gosh,
no, you're thinking of Robert Hayes.
Yes.
Joan Rivers?
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes, Joan Rivers.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
So anyway, Airplane is a parody that is a deliberate, like, word-for-word remake almost of a film called, I believe, 0 Hour. And, you know, I'm obviously getting a little pushback on whether it's a disaster movie. I don't have a moment's hesitation in saying it counts.
How many people died?
None.
Okay, yeah.
The airplane is going to fall out of the sky, and against all odds, we bring it down to earth is one of the most important parts of the 70s.
It feels like a success movie.
It is a movie that is part of a tradition of disaster movies.
Okay.
Including Airport and Airport 1974 and The Concorde Airport 1979.
All right.
Or maybe that was 1977. There were 4 of them.
You could have sold me either way.
All right. So, I mean, it's a funny movie. It's a movie that plays with genre conventions in a way that I very much approve of. And I couldn't bring myself to put an actual airport on this list because they're all dreadful. But I feel like this stands in a way that I am comfortable with, and to hell with all of you for disagreeing with me.
That's right. It feels disastrous with the 0 fatalities and the safe landing. But I do love this movie. I've actually seen it, and I really do enjoy it.
Tim, are you nervous?
No. Why would I be nervous?
First time? No, I've been nervous lots of times. There's so
really
many good lines. Have you seen this movie, Carrie?
Yeah. That's what I just said. Have you been listening to what I've been saying?
Yeah.
Just saw that movie.
It's funny lines.
It's like one of my dad's all-time favorite movies, so I've seen it.
It's a dad movie.
Yeah, it's definitely my dad's movie.
Yeah. Roger Murdoch. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah.
I just wonder if all the quotable lines you would go to, why you would not just go straight for Shirley.
Oh, yeah, Shirley.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Famous line.
That's the line.
That's right.
I was just going in order of the IMDb that I pulled up here.
He's the best. He's so funny.
This one I'm still good with. I think it's going to meet everybody's criteria. Not Tim's. No vignettes in this one. This really does focus
It
more
doesn't
on
meet Tim's
one.
criteria because people actually die.
Oh, I will also
Right.
point out, Airplane does have a substantial number of little subplots on the airplane, all of
Right.
which get resolved as a result of the airplane's incident.
And like things probably got kind of stressful too.
So
I get that.
now I'm curious. So Apollo 13, that would qualify based on.
No.
That
No.
wouldn't qualify as a disaster movie based on, but
not
Airplane? Interesting.
It is not part of the...
That's a
Airplane is
tradition.
a parody of a film that is like... So the airports are disaster movies. If your definition of disaster movie does not include the airports, it is the wrong definition.
I'm part of the wrong definition. This one would not make your criteria, Tim,
People
because
do
of-
die in the airport films.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Those other films,
Of
yeah.
like heart attacks or something, not of airplane crashes.
Sure.
The airplanes all land
The-
successfully.
This 2004 movie does not. 2004. I think that's wrong. Either way,
I hope it's wrong because I can only think of one disaster movie from 2004.
no, this
and
is
it's real
not.
bad.
I think I've got this wrong as far as the date goes. But this one does not focus on subplots. This is The Wave.
I have not seen The Wave.
I think it's 2000, more recent 2000. Someone can look this up while I describe it. 2 hours, 16 minutes, 6.7 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, 82%. Directed and written by Roar Uthaug. So, although anticipated, no one is really ready when the mountain pass above the scenic, narrow Norwegian fjord Geringer collapses, creating an 85-meter high violent tsunami. Apparently, like it's
2015.
It's 2015. Thank you. 2015. Apparently, it's just bound to happen at some point in Norway, where like a side of a mountain will just collapse into a fjord.
That
and then
is
a giant
why
tsunami.
the Norwegians are such dour folk.
Yeah, they're just waiting.
This could be covered in water and ice at any given second.
So I really like this movie. This movie creates it's a little bit Dante's Peak-esque in the sense of the
Just
type
water.
of you're just waiting for something to happen, but it fits my definition of the natural disaster. I like the main character. It's a subtitle. It's a foreign movie. It's subtitled. I enjoyed watching it. That didn't keep me from enjoying it, which often is a challenge for me. So for those who listen to me and like my movies that I select. And also are hesitant about seeing a subtitle movie. You fell asleep during this movie, Carrie?
Maybe. Well, this was on
Stand Out?
Netflix, right?
It was on. Yeah, it was available on Netflix.
Is it still
It might
now?
still
Do
be
you
out
know?
there for free. Directed and written by Roar Uthaug, who's doing the new Tomb Raider. Which the previews for that do not.
They do not suggest that it will be the film
Good.
to break the track record of bad video game movies.
Yeah, that's too bad because I do like Alicia Vikander. And yeah, that's too bad. But for this movie, made for $117,000.
Not bad.
Made $117,000.
Paid $117.
Didn't make how much. I really like it. It creates tension. It's a geologist. He's kind of trying to get everybody like, hey, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like the conditions are right. No one's listening, and he has
Water.
to. There's a familial element to it too, where he has to maybe do some rescuing.
character die?
A family.
I guess you can't tell me.
I'm not gonna tell you.
I just
There's
feel
lots of death.
I'm really confident in my list because everybody dies in mine. So
From here on out is where I feel there will be some. We haven't had much or any overlap, but from here on
We have
out,
both picked Dante's Peak.
we did.
after our
I
fashion.
guess we did. Yes.
here's where things get a little weird for me. I actually went into this pick thinking that I overlapped with a bunch of the listener/readership because it was in everybody. So I went in and I was like, I typed it in, the movie that I wanted to talk about. And I was like, this isn't the movie I wanted to talk about because a lot of people had picked Cloverfield. And I was like, I've never seen this. This is weird. And I realized the movie I wanted to talk about was 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is different than Cloverfield.
I am not confident that either Cloverfield meets my definition of a disaster film.
Well, 10 Cloverfield Lane does for sure, right?
Well, my definition, no, because it's external forces, whether alien or other.
To me, it is necessary that there be a stable situation at the start, and 10 Cloverfield Lane does not begin with a stable situation.
That wasn't one of my criteria, but let me tell you about this movie, and I won't spoil this movie, but Rob introduced me to this, and I really, really liked it. So it's directed by Dan Trachtenberg and written by Josh Campbell. It's a drama horror mystery movie. So after this young woman's in a car accident, like Tim said.
It's a drama horror mystery movie?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't you mean it's a drama horror mystery disaster?
A disaster. I was getting there. That's what I was going to lead into that, Tim. Thanks for stealing my genres there. So this girl gets into a car accident really early on in the movie, and a man in a truck comes along and you think helps her and pulls her into this shelter where there's already two men that are there. And he claims early on, so the man is played by John Candy. Who's the woman played by again?
Definitely not played by John Candy.
Or no. Sorry. I was talking about him earlier. John Goodman.
Yes.
The other John.
Other fat John.
Sorry,
You can say it. We all know what you're thinking.
He's actually slimmed down quite a bit if you've seen him these days.
He lost so much weight.
So he claims that he's saving this girl. Can you look up
Mary Elizabeth
Winstead?
Oh yeah, she was really good in this.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
You like her, Tim?
You get this like abductee sense in the beginning, like, oh, she's in this shelter and it's weird. And the whole time in this movie, you're feeling very much like John Goodman is this super creep, which he is. But at the same time, too, he's very adamant that he is saving her from a world that is being affected by this chemical attack outside. And he's like, do not leave this place. So he has set up a bunker basically underground that's self-sustaining. Like they can survive for a long period of time. But there's this apocalypse / huge epic disaster that's happening outside. And so,
or is there?
Well, that's a spoiler to the movie. And
it's a driving question of the movie.
It's a question I know the answer to from seeing the movie, which is why...
It's a question we all know the answer to from the fact that the word Cloverfield appeared in the title of the movie.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Just saying.
Did other people know what you mean by that?
I think that the movie did a really poor job of hiding its twist ending by virtue of positioning itself within a specific franchise.
See, I didn't get that. Yeah. But I thought so there were elements of the ending that I didn't like, but I thought this movie had an ending that I never would have expected. But it's like a twist. So there's a twist at the end, and then there's a twist on the twist. Mm-hmm. And I like the twist on the twist. I don't like the one twist, but I like the twist on the twist.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I know
exactly what she means.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it later. If you like twisty, apocalyptic disaster, epic disaster movies, try 10 Cloverfield Lane.
It's not, yeah.
It's super disastrous.
I feel like
bad things happen in this bunker.
I'm substantially less upset about the pushback I got on Airplane in this moment. Because,
This thing, though, has affected lots of people, not just the bunker.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it meets my criteria, affecting a widespread amount of people.
So my next film, which also is about an event that affects a widespread number of people, is the movie Love Actually, which takes place at Christmas. And who doesn't celebrate Christmas? No. My actual number 3.
I thought you were going to go way less PC than that. I was like, all these movies were popping into my mind.
I already made a fairly ill-advised Schindler's List joke that I don't think I would have made if I wasn't so damn tired. So I think that was my quota for the night.
That's right.
So my number 3 is the 70s action film, 70s disaster film on my list. The golden age of disaster films. Like, absolutely no question. Perfected the form, perfected the ensemble, everything about this. So my number 3 is a film from the god of the 70s disaster movie, producer Irwin Allen. I think I have that right. I'm suddenly drawing a blank. Yeah, Irwin Allen. It's not directed by him, although some of his films were. It's actually directed by Ronald Neame. This is 1972's The Poseidon Adventure, in which a bunch of people are on a boat and the boat sinks and they're on it, but it sinks upside down. So there's air bubbles and they're in an air bubble and they have to get out of the boat before it goes all the way to the bottom of the ocean. And
I feel like it ends well, though.
No, many people die.
Oh, really?
People we adore die.
Did we see the remake here?
Incredibly,
no,
it is like famously.
With
Shelley Winters has a very famous death scene in this movie.
Oh.
So like it happens late in the movie, but like everyone knows she dies. So like it's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is Irwin Allen was responsible for a lot of really major disaster films in the 70s. The other very prominent one is the Towering Inferno. I think this is just a much better film. It's tighter, it's shorter, it has a much more appealing cast. It has a much more like punchy disaster because it's like they're on a boat. They're on a boat that's sinking and there's water everywhere and there's fire and there's explosions. And, it is a pretty crappy movie, honestly, but I think it's a crappy movie that gets over a lot on the strength of a really like game cast that includes Gene Hackman, Roddy McDowall, Shelley Winters, as I mentioned, Jack Albertson, Ernest Borgnine, other people. This is one of those early films that had like a cast of everyone who was sufficiently desperate for money, but still well enough known that Irwin Allen could afford them for less than they really were worth. I mean, such as probably Roddy McDowall or Borgnine. And yeah, just a film that's all about all of these people who have these like very colorful, weird lives, and they're all like very, very distinctly etched out people. Like Gene Hackman is a priest, and Shelley Winters is like this, desperate old lady and stuff like that. And they bond together over their effort to get through the bowels of the ship so they can exit and hopefully be rescued before it sinks. Many of them die.
So
and before they have, there's only like a dozen people who don't die initially.
So
The rest of the people on this cruise ship die.
does the flipping of the ship happen almost immediately? So the whole movie is set with this?
The flipping of the ship happens within the first quarter. for
Okay.
sure.
So would like Speed 2 qualify for your list then?
I haven't seen Speed 2.
Cruise control?
Ah, nice,
Yeah.
Care.
Yes.
Oh, I keep up on my speeds.
Titanic would have qualified.
Titanic would qualify for
for your list. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I left those types of movies out, but I do enjoy the Poseidon Adventure. So it's just from a quality of movie perspective, no doubt, but just didn't make my criteria.
It's difficult for me to imagine a set of criteria that would exclude the Poseidon Adventure.
Natural, just
Yeah.
the criteria I listed
it
up.
is natural. It's a wave.
Floods, hurricanes.
Floods. This is
tsunamis.
probably a
Big
flooded
wave.
wave. Lots of
Yeah.
water. Tipped.
Yeah. Tipped a
It's-
boat.
it's
Tipped a-
not
tipped a
like-
boat. I'm talking
Yeah.
about Earth, like Earth.
The water
The
is the
wave?
earth. More
What's
of the,
the
earth
wave
is
then?
water than
No,
is
I just
land,
mean like
sir.
threatens the Earth, like in its entirety, like my 1998
So actually,
movie.
actually most of the Earth is made up of water, Rob. Did you know
I-
that?
That's what
I
I'm
have-
saying. The disaster needs to threaten the majority of Earth.
Of land, you mean?
No, of Earth.
So
Needs
yeah,
to-
this sounds like
no, it does not. Poseidon Adventure threatens the people on the
on
ship.
the boat.
Yeah.
Your Norwegian film did not
That's true.
threaten anyone outside of a single
I was
fjord
going to
in
try
Norway.
and call him out, but I've already blocked out everything he said, so I couldn't
Get
even
that.
come up with
Well,
anything.
his next film is from 1998.
So which one is it,
He already
Tim?
told us that. It's either the terrible one or the boring one. I'm not sure which one.
It's the boring one. It's
All right.
It's Deep Impact.
Okay,
all right.
you're right. It's not Armageddon.
Oh.
I feel good that's not Armageddon.
So the reason why I chose Deep Impact over Armageddon, because it was a coin toss for me, but what I ended up doing was going back to my criteria, and spoiler alert, Armageddon, and I had to remember, and this is the conversation we had in the car, Tim, where I was struggling to remember a particular plot point. In Armageddon, there is only the threat of a situation, but there is no...
There are precursor meteor showers
Okay.
Yeah.
that do cause some
Things
magnitude.
actually do touch down.
Yeah, not
like
terribly many-
minor.
But there's an asteroid coming to this.
Okay.
Like it's like the size
But
of Texas.
again, I feel like if our criterion outlaw Armageddon, our criterion have been ratcheted too tight.
Okay. Well, I outlawed it.
Okay.
And that's where I was. And that's why I was struggling. Like, was I didn't...
I mean, I get that an asteroid doesn't have as large of a death toll as a fjord falling in. Like, how many people even live in Norway? Like 20?
What I wanted to do is be true to my criteria. Whether or not we agreed with it, I wanted to be pretty
Okay.
good. So if hopefully I've, at least from the criteria that I set forth, I've done a good job keeping to
Can I
that.
ask you a weird question
Sure.
before you go on?
Yeah.
If remember that time that guy said I looked Norwegian?
Yeah.
Or no, he said I looked Nordic.
Nordic, yeah.
Does that mean I'm from Norway or that I'm from I'm
Nordic is Northern Europe generally, but more specifically Scandinavia.
okay?
Does Carrie look Nordic to you?
No.
No,
Not in the nose?
none of those. I fell once when I was little. No.
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 Sorry.
Yeah, somebody told me that once.
I would be hard pressed to place where
Not
I
Nordic?
thought your genes were
Just
from.
a
Yeah.
mutt.
It's just
really.
Yep.
a smattering of places. So anyway, move
So
along.
Deep Impact, Carrie, you should.
You have a very aquiline, like European nose.
Oh,
I
do.
It's easy to tell you're from Eastern Europe.
I'm definitely
Makes up most
Eastern
of his face.
Europe. What was your issue with Deep Impact, Carrie?
I never saw it.
Oh, that's your
Or
issue.
wait, is
That
this the
an
one?
issue.
This isn't the one with Jodie Foster.
No, this is
that's
Contact.
Contact.
It
Not Deep Impact.
We would come up with a list that would include many tens of thousands of films without being able to include Contact.
Okay.
in any reasonable list of disaster movies.
That's right.
This is
so then no, I have
this
not.
one's written and directed by Mimi Leader, who brought us Pay It Forward and The Peacemaker, unfortunately, starring Robert Duvall, Taya Leone, and Elijah Wood. This one does follow your vignette scenarios
Oh,
where
very
it
much
follows
so.
different people in different parts of their lives. Maybe I think there's some overlaps that occur as well too. I saw this when I was 16 years old in theaters. So the plot synopsis is: unless a comet can be destroyed before colliding with Earth, only those allowed into shelters will survive. Which people will survive? Lily Sobieski and Elijah Wood have kind of like a young.
They're like the
love,
Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler.
but kind of in a much younger type of scenario.
More innocent way.
But yeah, people are going to die. It's who's going to survive, which ones are going to make it, which ones aren't. Certainly many main characters don't make it. I teared up in this movie. Morgan Freeman as president. Can't go wrong there. I wanted to build or get the invite to the shelter that they were providing. So
now, remind me, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. Was it a lottery or was it a like preferential based on skill set?
It was lottery and it was a mixed bag. You definitely got the invite if you had something to
So
contribute.
they didn't go full strange.
So podcasters would be obviously invited.
This is the thing that makes me feel bad about my life. Under no conceivable civilization-ending threat do I live.
So here's another question. If you were going to go, what movie would you go in? Would you go in Dante's Peak? Would you go in Poseidon Adventure? Would you go in... So that's what? Water, heat. Would you go in the movie Alive?
Well, they just froze to death.
That's what I mean. So
Right.
would you go by cold, heat, water?
So is Alive a disaster?
Or would you go by Gandhi? Starving.
Gandhi didn't starve to death, I don't
But I mean, he wasn't
starved
eating.
himself
Yeah.
before not starving himself.
Which four ways?
I would go, if those are my choices.
Yeah, that's all you have.
Well, I feel like...
Or 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I feel like cold would at least like let you be sleepy and fall asleep and then you die, whereas like all the others involve some level of suffering.
Yeah. Oh,
But I would go plane crash.
You'd go plane crash.
So I would go back. I would die via airplane.
Because we're on Deep Impact, I'd be hugging my dad like Tay Leone and watching the giant wave approaching us. That's terrible CGI, but we watch it
You're really
approach.
into the water thing.
The
wave,
water
the
wash
Deep
right over me.
Impact.
I wouldn't feel a thing. Giant wave like that.
See, I think drowning's frightening. I would never want to drown.
Yeah, you drowning is short, but it hurts. Apparently.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Tay Leone and her dad didn't drown. I'm sure they were crushed by the weight of the
that makes
wave.
it so much sweeter when you put it that
so
way.
sad. That's how you want to go.
I'll bet at least one of them was beheaded by flying debris.
Probably first, yes. Yeah. But we have an other than Dante's Peak,
I'm
which
very
is
Which is
surprised.
clearly the best movie any of us have named.
I can't think of any better other than how did you describe it? Is it the boring one or the
boring one or the terrible one?
So I went with the terrible one,
Yay.
and I love this movie, 1998's Armageddon. I adored this movie.
This is literally one of the movies that makes me angriest in all the world that it exists.
Is it because it's so good and
because I know that no movie will ever surpass it. No, talk to us about Armageddon.
So it was 1988, hit me in the prime of my life, hit me in a very good time for Ben Affleck.
Does this movie have a body count of at least 14?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing.
This movie has a body count of 1.
So it has a body, but it's an important one. And here's the other thing: it's being staved off. Like that's the thing. The world, a large amount of people are going to die if it's not for the body count of 1.
But I believe you indicated that one of your criterion was that it ended poorly.
It does end poorly.
For an human being.
Right, but that one human being has taken the ultimate sacrifice,
All right.
which is like trumps all
Which
epic
is
disasters.
agreeing to marry Ben Affleck.
Exactly. I'm not going to tell you who dies, just in case you haven't seen this one, but it's very sad. So it's directed by Michael Bay, who's the pretty director, right? Not actually pretty, but like he does pretty movies, right?
He does pretty movies, and he does have
Transformers?
a very, very fetching head of hair.
Does
for
he
the
too?
record.
I can't actually picture him.
Very flouncy, and like you can just imagine him like whipping his
Is
head
it kind of
around
like the
way.
guy from Grey's Anatomy, Patrick?
It is a little bit like Patrick Dempsey, a
Kinda
little bit
flowy.
less wavy.
Less wavy, okay.
Dempsey's hair is
Not really into
wavier.
wavy hair anyway. So, but it's also written by Jonathan Hensley. Do you know him?
It's written by like 14 people, but
And
I believe
all of those
Jonathan
people.
Hensley is actually one of the names that I
A
do.
movie of this quality would have to have lots of writers.
Obviously.
So
That's usually the sign of a good movie.
Exactly. So after discovering that this massive, massive asteroid that's going to destroy the entire planet, it's the size of Texas.
It's an asteroid the size of Texas.
That's huge.
A phrase used somewhere around 400 times in the course of the movie's dialogue.
That's okay with me, but it's going to impact the Earth in less than a month. And so NASA recruits this misfit team, who the team is so endearing and wonderful and awesome.
They're like cowboys.
I know. And they go out and they're like deep core drillers. So they're people that work on a rig, like an oil rig. And it's so vivid to me. And I haven't seen it in so many years.
They're people who operate according to their own set of
Their
like,
own
rules.
agenda and their rules. And they go out and they're like,
And they have like a code of honor, but like an honor of like male companionship as opposed to like
Yes.
the man's rules, which are all about like following the law.
Yeah. And these guys go out and they're like, we don't need any rules. We're going to go out and we're just going to do our thing to stop this asteroid from like ruining the Earth. And that's what they do.
And then like the stuffed shirt NASA people try to make them like
follow rules.
Like follow like a guidelines. And they're like, no, we're cowboys in space.
No, because I'm Billy Bob Thornton.
But not space cowboys.
Not space cowboys.
No.
About 2 years later.
And this movie was so good. And then Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler. So it's action, romance, disaster.
Remember the scene where Ben Affleck is like using animal crackers to graze over Liv Tyler's pubic thatch?
Mm-hmm.
No, it was her belly button.
Whatever.
Go to the southern regions.
Oh,
He's
gross.
doing a voice. He was
Don't
doing a
make
voice.
it weird.
He was doing a voice.
Don't make it weird.
I think he was trying to do David Attenborough. It didn't come off that.
You're making it weird. At the time,
I didn't make it weird. It got made weird long before I saw this movie.
So, this was cute. So their relationship, Ben Affleck and Liv Tyler's relationship, was very endearing and sweet, and everybody loved it. And literally, if you cried at the end of this movie. I know you did.
Of joy.
I did. You did not. You were like, I'm so sad. So it ends really poorly and sadly and awfully, and it did not
agree with
end.
every one of the words you just used.
This was like one of my childhood favorites, and it was hugely a disaster, which is why
the line Bruce Willis delivers to
tell me, Rob, what's the line?
to Ben.
Oh yes,
Well,
say it.
I feel like
say it.
Okay. It is. I've always thought of you as a son.
As a son, but the whole time he
But the
doesn't
whole
really
time
like him.
you didn't really get that sense.
No, he really
for
didn't
the
like
entire
him.
movie until that
You
line
get the
was
sense
delivered.
that he thinks of Ben Affleck as his fuck up slave.
Yes.
He can't do anything
But
with
then
it.
he loves him at the end.
In all honesty, top 5 Michael Bay movies.
Nope.
Really?
Nope.
It wouldn't qualify.
So let me see. My top 5 Michael
being
Bay movies.
cynical.
The Rock would be number 1, obviously.
The Rock is good.
Pain and Gain would be number 2. Bad Boys would be number 3.
No, Bad Boys is not number 3.
No, Bad Boys is up there.
Let's see. God. And after that, I probably just start with like drinking rather than raping. At least 2 of the Transformers are better than Armageddon. Maybe even 3.
No.
I do like Armageddon.
No.
Again, it's probably more nostalgia than.
See, yeah,
than
Rob likes
reality,
this. Rob
but I do
cried.
like this.
Rob
That's
was
why
like,
it was a
"Oh."
toss-up. But then the majority of the movie takes place in space, not on Earth, where our disasters. The
impending doom of
and it was
millions of people.
impending, but not really the doom.
Okay.
What's your
Okay.
number 2, Tim?
My number 2 is a movie that I think you were kind of thinking, what psychopath would call Titanic a disaster movie? I would, because it's my number 2.
Oh my goodness.
That's my number 1.
I love it a lot as a disaster movie. It's like the version of a 70s disaster movie that's really fucking good. And so this is it's fucking Titanic. I mean, why do we even need to talk about this? This is a movie about the Titanic, which is sailing with many, many, many people. Some of them
Like
played
a billion
people, played by Kathy Bates and Billy Zane.
I love that you go with
and
those
David
two first.
Warner. And also like that
other
gentleman who was
people.
in the Romeo and Juliet show.
He was What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
He was also What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And he was the beach.
He's also in
Beach is
Critters,
the movie.
Critters 3.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So the beach and the reader are both in this movie.
Oh, and they're so good.
And they fall in love they fall in love against this backdrop against all sorts of people having like adventures involving class and
totally.
like mothering and being Billy Zane's awful with his eyebrows and he's just nasty.
Face is the worst.
And then the ship hits an iceberg
I know.
and they're all going to die.
Not all of them, but
So a lot of them are
most
gonna
of
die
them are
'cause there
going to
weren't enough
die.
lifeboats.
There weren't enough lifeboats.
There were not enough lifeboats.
And it was so cold.
And it was so cold.
Oh.
And Jack saved her.
Like, he would never let her go.
And he says, "Never let me go." And she says, "I never let you go." And then she lets him go and he dies.
But he already was dead.
He was already dead.
He was already dead.
It's okay. And there's also a really just unbelievably shitty framing narrative that makes the movie a lot worse than it needs to be. But other than that,
I think this is the most disastrous of all disaster movies. I feel like because any amazing disaster movie has to be set up with a love story that you just can't
hell yeah,
let go of.
hell yeah.
It does meet your criteria, Tim, of vignettes. There certainly is sizable amounts of casualties. I had trouble with this one because I feel like there's so many transport-related things that happen, like where people die. And I feel like it's its
did
own...
man make the iceberg? No, and that's why Titanic has never been regarded as
unnatural.
a symbol
I wanted-
of man's overreach.
I wanted at least like a country to be threatened. Not
Country of Jack and Rose's
And I say
love.
country. I was going to say world, but then I remembered my.
It's not even Norway. It's a fucking like township in Norway. More people drowned on the Titanic than lived
Township
in the
of
entire
Norway.
county where your fjord collapsed.
Think about Rob. Think about now as an adult. Since you're watching this as an adult now, think about like the scene where after the ship goes down and the kids. Think about the kids, man.
No, I
floating.
The
Think
mother
about
holding her
the mother
children.
holding the children. I just wanted to like just rip my eyeballs out. And then the husband and wife, like
husband
have
and
been
wife
married
who-
for like
who-
so
who, like,
elderly.
laying in their bed.
And they just
Think
just hunker
think
down.
about Propeller Man.
The Propeller Man.
The man who falls off the
forgot all
propeller and
these
it's
things.
not supposed to be funny, but it totally is.
the orchestra.
I feel so sad. So
Plays
I don't. We talked about this really early on because this is in my top 5 movies of all time. And so Rob, you weren't probably here when I talked about this.
No, I was not.
I had a creepy obsession with this movie when it first came
You
out.
were precisely the age.
The perfect age, exactly. I literally had posters all over my room. I printed out the lyrics of this and like the "My Heart Will Go On" song and plastered it with silly
It's
putty.
amazing to me you needed you needed a lyrics sheet to like remember the lyrics. That
I
song
just
played
love
like
that.
80 times a day for 4 years.
It was a thing where literally, like, if anybody right now that I went to high school with is listening, I literally would cry on the bus listening to this song because it was so like awful, like disastrous. Like this is a top disaster movie by every stretch of the.
I mean, it does
Definition.
everything I wanted to do. It presents me with a very robust melodramatic backdrop that is harshly interrupted and then resolved by the presence of some of the best visual effects.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
they
it-
hold up.
yes.
It's a 20-year-old
Oh, yeah.
movie. There are shots. There are some crowd shots especially, which is like, nope, that was CGI. But man, that movie holds
and
up.
it ends in pure heartbreak. Like there's nothing good about the ending.
No.
No.
The ending's wonderful.
The ending is like my heart
ending-
feels sad.
The ending is apparently Rose's ghost going to the Titanic because that's the only place she was ever happy. It's not really easy to parse. But
She's never
she's
recovered.
Smiling. She smiles.
She's smiling. That's from like plastic surgery.
Old Lady Rose is smiling at the end of the movie.
She's not.
When she's dead,
Like
she
fake.
smiles.
That's what she said when she's reunited with Jack again.
Is she dead or is she dreaming?
You don't know.
Right.
Wait, she's
I
not.
have to go rewatch this. I don't know what you're
I
talking
think
about.
we're supposed to know that she's one of those two, and it's just not quite there in the screenplay. But I think
Yeah.
she's one of those two.
Oh,
It's a good movie. Go see Titanic. It's a good movie.
I'm going to go rewatch it. This one actually made my top
Tough
5.
to top there, Rob.
I know,
Here,
my number
try
2.
and follow that. Yeah.
I can't believe we haven't had like a material overlap minus the one kind of half overlap there. This one is one that's made a top 5 before. It was top 5 environmental movies, and it is another Roland Emmerich masterpiece because he is the master of disaster.
You unbearable shithead.
I love The Day After Tomorrow.
I apologize for everything I said about Armageddon. I didn't realize
See,
this was in the
this
offing,
was
or I would have
coming, yeah.
I wouldn't have used up all my jokes.
I
The
know,
Day After
they're done.
Tomorrow is worse than Armageddon.
Maybe.
Multiple vignettes. It
meets the definition.
So just not it's just not quality.
It's just
for
bad.
Good movie.
You don't like this movie,
I've
Karen?
never seen this one.
There's a scene where they outrun cold.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That's
You
not
can do
how
it.
cold works. It's not a freeze ray.
Day After Tomorrow. What happens
It's like
in
a
this?
freeze ray. This is Jack Hall, played by Dennis Quaid, as a climatologist. He must do a daring trek to Washington D.C. or from Washington D.C. to New York City to reach his son trapped in the crosshairs of a sudden international storm.
But he doesn't just trek from one place to the other because what's going on between Washington and New York at this time?
There is a major storm.
Major storm.
Storm.
Because global climate change
Shifted.
has caused the temperature of the Earth's surface to plummet, freezing everything.
So
Okay.
basically everything south or north of Mexico is an frozen ice tundra, uninhabitable.
ice.
Edge of
If you
Tomorrow.
even step outside, you have the chance of just being instantly,
Unless
So
you can
cold.
outrun it,
unless you can outrun it. It'd be fast.
which is
Yeah.
a major set piece in the film.
Okay.
So I like this movie. I like the characters. Jake Gyllenhaal's in this. Emmy Rossum, amongst others. Just the differences of people. This came at the right time too, where obviously climate change was still a big deal, but certainly was growing in materiality and from a news perspective and importance across the United States. So
Here is a fun fact. This movie was made as a message film about climate change. Climate change activists were concerned that the movie's low quality and bad science would in fact cause more harm to their cause than good, even by giving it visibility.
Interesting.
I feel it helped. I feel like it helped.
Yeah, this is my grandpa's favorite movie.
This is your grandpa's favorite movie?
I'm just joking because he's against climate change.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was surprised to hear that. Made for $125 million, brought in half $1 billion worldwide. I really enjoyed this movie.
I'm glad.
So we're at number one.
I don't think I'll see it.
I think we're going to cross over. No, you're going to see.
I already did. I'm done. Titanic was my number one.
Oh, he stole it.
Stole my number one.
What the heck? I don't understand how you guys don't have my number one on your list. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Well, maybe I do. Maybe we have the same number one.
Oh my gosh.
So this is my example of the history of the disaster movie, which is older than you might think. It does not start, as many people argue, in the 1960s with Krakatoa east of Java. No, it starts much, much earlier than that. In fact, this is not even the first disaster film, but this is the first disaster film nominated for the Best Picture Oscar. I am obviously referring to 1936's San Francisco.
Is that yours, Rob?
I went on the Universal picture ride. Is it in Universal Studios? Is it Universal?
I don't know. I think it might be. It's MGM. Yeah,
okay,
MGM. So this is a film directed by W.S. Van Dyke, written by Anita Loos. It is a movie in which a woman played by Jeanette MacDonald named Mary Blake, who is a singer in 1906 San Francisco. You know, she's trying to make it, and she falls in with two very different men. One who is a rough and tumble saloon keeper on the Barbary Coast, played by Clark Gable, and the other is just some rich fucker. And I don't even remember who plays the rich fucker because he's an asshole.
You don't need to know.
We don't care about him.
No.
He's just a dick. So she's torn between her love for these two men. And meanwhile, Clark Gable's character, Blackie Norton, is trying to start up the best saloon in town. So they have these different conflicts that are driving them, and they both want to be successful, and they want to be successful together, but ultimately, you know, their lives pull them apart. Meanwhile, Clark Gable is taking advice from his childhood friend, Tim Mullen, who's now a Catholic priest, played by Spencer Tracy, because that's who you hired to play a Catholic priest back in that day. And all of these things are happening, and it's this wonderful historical snapshot of San Francisco when it was burly and rough and young and striving to be like a great American city, but it was still like a Western frontier town. And then what happens? Well, it's 1906, so there's an earthquake. And it destroys the city. It flattens it in its prime as it's trying to rise to be one of the great American cities. But because of the spirit of the San Franciscans, it reestablishes itself and grows to become the city we know and love today. Also, you know that song, San Francisco, Open Your Golden Gate? You know, San Francisco, open your golden gate.
A little bit more. Give me a little bit more.
That's what I know lyric-wise.
Okay.
That song was written for this movie.
Could you do it one more time and maybe it'll come to me? No. Okay.
Nope.
So it's not the Rice-A-Roni song?
It is not the Rice-A-Roni song.
Okay.
It is, however, the official song of the city of San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, it's a great romantic melodrama, because I mean, Clark Gable, Jeanette MacDonald, and Spencer Tracy, like, that's a fucking
I do feel like I was
and it has really good visual effects.
On some sort of ride where the visual effects were demonstrated, where they invented some sort of camera technique, right, where the camera shakes or something.
I mean, it could well be. It did not win an Oscar. There was no visual effects Oscar. It won a sound recording Oscar.
Okay.
That's like what they had. But yeah, no, like, I mean, it is amazing for a, 81-year-old movie, how much it still feels like an actual earthquake. It is state-of-the-art shit.
How common was the name Blackie at the time?
If you were a character played by Clark Gable, much more common than in the population at large.
Okay, I was going to say I haven't heard that one before, but I'm interested in naming our next child that, maybe. Not for you.
I'm curious why you don't have my number one on your list is what I'm curious about.
Well, Perry.
Rob's like, I'm done with this podcast. Okay, tell us about your number one.
How do you guys not have... I'll be surprised to hear... It certainly meets, I would hope, your criteria, so you're going to have to tell me why 1996 Twister is not
no
a
one
favorite
dies that I care about.
Because I only had room for one very bad movie on my list.
Yeah.
Twister's bad to you?
Yes.
Visual effects? Good?
The visual effects are fine.
Is it because you don't like Bill Paxton?
It's because I don't like Bill Paxton. I wanted Helen Hunt to end up with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That would have been
better. Actually, somebody dies. One person dies.
Well, the dad dies in the opening scene.
Yeah.
There's death.
No, it's not tragic.
And Carrie Elwes gets he gets like the fence in his head.
That's fine though, because you don't like him.
But he still dies.
But I don't care. As you whip.
That's it.
Because that was from Princess Bride.
That's what I did.
It's a different movie.
I know.
Different
I was
movie.
kind of blending.
This movie, I didn't care about anybody that died. It wasn't that tragic.
What about the cow?
The cow, I did care about that, but you don't actually see how that resolves.
No, that's the same cow. Because there were two. And
There were
the
two
cow's
cows.
going
You don't
around.
actually see that cow
Cows
could have stuck the landing. You don't even really know.
We did. They should have done like a post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Of the cow.
The cow.
Like with a
I
dazed
cared
look on
most
his face.
about the cow in that movie.
The cow's a great character.
directed by Jan de Bon.
I think you pronounce the T. I'm not sure. It's you got Jan though, so that's
That's
half
half the battle.
Halfway there, yeah.
So we mentioned Speed 2, the director of Speed 2, Speed, The Haunting, and we have I must have a Lara Croft Tomb Raider thing going on here because also he directed that. And
Wait, did he direct the first one or the second one?
Second.
So the better one.
The better of the two.
Better of the two.
Starring Helen Hunt, Bill Paxton, which we mentioned, Gary Elwes, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman, a young. Having a lot of fun.
It always traumatizes me when I realize this was the first time I ever saw him in a movie. I always want it to have been The Big Lebowski, but it's always Twister.
Meet your other criteria too about divorced couples.
Yeah.
It is pure disaster movie boilerplate. Like
Yep.
this is a 100% slam dunk meets my criterion.
These advanced storm chasers on the brink of divorce must join forces together again to advance their weather alert system by putting themselves in the crosshair. So storm chasing. I didn't know about storm chasing. And storm chasing
no
on the
one
map.
did. I mean,
Yeah.
people did. Storm chasers did, obviously, but no, it totally made it a thing that people talked about.
And I wanted to go out and, when it got cloudy some days in Colorado when I was younger, and I was 14 years old, I wanted to...
You took your Sebring out and you were like, hey.
Sebring?
You're,
I was 14 years old? What are you talking about?
No, when you're 14.
Your T-bird?
Your Robert took his car.
Are these
zoomed out.
euphemisms? I don't know what's
Yeah, I don't
happening
know.
here. Made for $92 million, brought in almost $500 million worldwide. Very, very successful movie. So you guys don't like this movie?
No,
I do not like this movie.
I actually love this movie, but it's not a disaster movie.
No, it did not meet your criteria?
No, again, minus the cow, I don't lose anybody in this movie that I'm concerned about.
I feel like a lot of death
let's
is
be
off
clear,
screen.
it's not nearly as obviously a disaster movie as 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Exactly.
Yeah, clearly,
the
yeah.
whole world's disrupted in that movie. And lots of people, there's only like 4 people in the bunker and half of them die. So
Well, let's see what the audience had to say. Every week we ask you to share your picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. Based on the results, here are your top 5 picks.
Don't say Twister.
We had a tie for 5th. We had actually quite a few on Tim's list here. We had Airport, which Tim mentioned. The Impossible, which Kara, you and I wanted to squeeze in and see before this, but we were too
I'm
tired.
going to squeeze it in after this.
Tim, thoughts on The Impossible? Meets your criteria? Good movie?
It's an okay movie, and I mean, yes, but I would also say that I think the disaster needs to, after the disaster happens, it needs to like be what's happening, and like the disaster is an event in the movie, and then the plot of the movie is like after it.
Got
It's
it.
a little too real.
I
Disaster
see
movies
what you're
are more
saying.
of a fantasy.
Okay. The Core, which you alluded to earlier.
Wait, the core made people. Why?
Yeah, tied for
But-
5th.
but it's so very bad.
Yeah. Which makes it
Sometimes
could
that's
have
a
made your
good disaster,
bad
yeah.
bad
It
disaster
could've,
movie
it could've.
pick. We also had Airplane.
You just said that.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't. Airport earlier.
Oh, Airport.
And
no, we have
the
Airplane.
last one
Oh,
tied for
shoot.
5th was The Room. So people were taking it more in a...
More,
Wait, this
more
was the top
euphemistically.
5
yes.
list? I
Yeah.
didn't have any matches.
These are all number 5.
No, these are all number 5.
Oh, jeez.
Number 4 was Twister, matching up with me. Number 3, The Day After Tomorrow. Moi.
Just copy off these people.
Number 2, Titanic. So there we go.
Yeah.
And the number 1 disaster movie, according to our audience, is the Poseidon Adventure. Well done,
Really?
Tim. Yeah. So a lot of favorites there. Our lucky winner this week was Mike Antonetti, who had Volcano, Dante's Peak, Armageddon, The Core, and San Andreas. I have not seen San Andreas, but certainly would have, based on what I know, would have qualified. Mike, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Mike, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie posts on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, I want to thank everybody for listening. Go out to our social media sites, go out to our Facebook page and like it. Head out to Twitter. We're tweeting all the time whenever any new updates are present. Also go to our website, alternating.com, for our movie reviews, podcasts, and more. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google. And I'm trying to think if I guess Jigsaw's coming out, but we're really doing our next episode because it's just Halloween.
It's Halloween. It's the 30th.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing our top 5 haunted house movies. We could have said it was due to Amityville, but that never really... Did it ever come out?
It is currently streaming for free on Google Play because the Weinstein Company is just trying to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You know? It's, yeah.
Well, be sure to think about your top 5 haunted house movies, and we will catch you next week.